Right now, you are looking at the world and believing that you are seeing it. You are not. What you call sight is a thin, curated slice of reality, assembled by a primate brain operating through just 3 narrow windows in the electromagnetic spectrum. The actual universe around you is roaring with color, pattern, and information that your biology is physically incapable of detecting. It is not that this information is hidden. It is that you do not have the equipment. Right now, in the exact room where you are sitting, there are radio waves, ultraviolet light, infrared radiation, and polarized light fields moving through the air around your body. You cannot feel them. You cannot see them. You have never, in your entire life, perceived even a fraction of the reality you are actually living inside, and you never will. A mantis shrimp sitting beside you right now would be experiencing a completely different universe. Not a slightly different universe, a fundamentally, mathematically incompatible one. This is not a metaphor. In 1909, a Baltic German biologist named Jakob von Uexkull published a radical idea. He was working at the University of Hamburg, studying how different organisms experience their environments. His argument was deceptively simple. Every living creature inhabits its own private perceptual universe. He called it the Umwelt. The word is German for environment, but von Uexkull meant something far stranger than surroundings. He meant that every organism lives inside a sealed sensory bubble, a private edition of reality, built from whatever biological sensors evolution happened to provide. He used a tick as his central example. A tick, he argued, does not experience a world of colors, sounds, or textures. A tick experiences exactly 3 signals: warmth, the smell of butyric acid in mammalian sweat, and the hairiness of skin. That is the tick's entire universe. Not because the rest of reality does not exist, but because the tick has no sensory apparatus to detect it. The implications of this idea took decades to fully absorb. If every organism has its own Umwelt, then there is no single objective version of reality. There are only versions of reality, each one constructed from the sensory toolkit that evolution handed to a given species. Your version is the human Umwelt. It is not the real world. It is the human-filtered approximation of the real world, and it is almost certainly leaving out more than it includes. The electromagnetic spectrum is the full range of all radiation moving through the universe at any given moment. It runs from radio waves longer than a football field all the way down to gamma rays smaller than an atomic nucleus. The total range spans roughly 60 octaves of frequency. Visible light occupies a range from about 380 nanometers to 700 nanometers. That is less than 1 octave out of 60. Human eyes can perceive less than 2% of the total electromagnetic spectrum. The remaining 98% simply does not exist to you. You have been calling that 2% reality your entire life. In 1914, an Austrian zoologist named Carl von Frisch noticed that honeybees were doing something that appeared impossible. He was at the University of Munich, and bees were navigating to flowers that looked completely identical to human observers. Von Frisch suspected the bees were seeing something humans could not. He was right. Bees have 3 types of photoreceptors, but they are not the same 3 as humans. Humans see red, green, and blue. Bees see green, blue, and ultraviolet. Bees are completely blind to red, but they can see ultraviolet radiation that is entirely invisible to human eyes. Flowers that look like plain uniform discs to humans are covered in elaborate ultraviolet markings visible only to pollinators. These are called nectar guides, ultraviolet runway lights painted on petals, directing bees to the exact location of the pollen. Every flower you have ever looked at has a hidden face that you have never seen. Carl von Frisch received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1973 for his work on bee communication and navigation. One of the things he proved, without fully intending to, is that a garden in sunlight is actually 2 completely different gardens, depending on who is looking at it. The human garden and the bee garden occupy the same physical space and share almost no visual information, but the bee's ultraviolet vision is modest compared to what comes next. In the warm, shallow waters of the Indo-Pacific Ocean lives a small crustacean called the mantis shrimp. Superficially, it resembles a decorated thumb-sized lobster. It is one of the most visually sophisticated organisms ever discovered on Earth. The mantis shrimp possesses 16 types of photoreceptor cells. Humans have 3. Mantis shrimp have 16. A researcher named Tom Cronin at the University of Maryland has spent decades studying mantis shrimp color vision. Along with Justin Marshall at the University of Queensland in Australia, Cronin's team published a landmark study in 2014 in the journal Science. Their finding was deeply counterintuitive. Despite having 16 photoreceptors, mantis shrimp are actually worse than humans at distinguishing between similar colors in standard tests. They do not use their visual system the way humans use color. They do not blend color information together to produce a rich palette of intermediate shades. Instead, each of their 16 channels appears to function like a binary trigger. A signal is either present or it is not. This means the mantis shrimp is not seeing 16 times as many colors as a human in any simple sense. It is processing 16 simultaneous streams of visual data and using them for purposes that researchers still do not fully understand. Among those 16 channels are receptors sensitive to ultraviolet light across 6 different frequencies. Mantis shrimp can detect circular polarized light, a form of polarization that no other known animal on Earth can perceive. Roy Caldwell at the University of California, Berkeley, one of the leading stomatopod researchers in the world, documented how mantis shrimp use polarized light in mating displays and territorial signaling. They are communicating in a visual language that is literally invisible to every other organism on the reef. They are having a conversation in light that does not exist inside the human Umwelt. We are not just missing the message, we are missing the entire channel it is being broadcast on. The mantis shrimp is the extreme example in the visual domain, but radically different sensory worlds extend far beyond color. Rattlesnakes of the family Crotalinae possess pit organs on either side of their heads, between their eyes and nostrils. These organs detect infrared radiation with a sensitivity of 0.003 degrees Celsius. A rattlesnake hunting in total darkness is navigating a rich, detailed thermal map of its environment. It can detect the heat signature of a mouse moving in complete blackness, track it, and strike with precision. The infrared world, entirely invisible to human eyes, is as vivid and navigable to a pit viper as a sunlit meadow is to us. Sharks present an entirely different layer of sensory reality. Embedded in the skin around a shark's snout are tiny jelly-filled pores called the ampullae of Lorenzini. These organs detect electric fields generated by the muscle activity and nerve impulses of other living organisms. A shark can detect electric fields as weak as 5 nanovolts per centimeter. This is sensitive enough to detect the bioelectric field of a flatfish buried under 3 inches of sand. The shark does not see the flatfish. It feels the electrical ghost of a living animal through a sense that has no equivalent in human anatomy. The platypus, one of the strangest mammals on Earth, uses the same principle. Its soft, rubbery bill is packed with approximately 40,000 electroreceptors. When a platypus dives to hunt, it closes its eyes, ears, and nose simultaneously. It navigates entirely by detecting the electrical fields of the shrimp and crayfish it is chasing through dark, murky water. It is operating a complete sensory world that has no overlap with anything a human experiences. There is no human word for what this feels like, because no human has ever felt it. Then there is the world of echolocation. Dolphins produce ultrasonic clicks at frequencies up to 150,000 Hz. The upper limit of human hearing is approximately 20,000 Hz. Dolphin echolocation operates at more than 7 times the highest frequency humans can detect. When a dolphin clicks, the returning echo paints a 3-dimensional acoustic image of everything in its environment. Research by Sam Ridgway at the Naval Ocean Systems Center showed that dolphins can distinguish between objects differing by just 1 millimeter in thickness, using echolocation alone. A dolphin swimming through murky water is navigating a world of acoustic holography that human minds cannot imagine from the inside. Bats accomplish something similar at night, catching insects mid-flight in complete darkness, using sonar systems that localize objects to within a millimeter. Donald Griffin at Harvard University coined the term echolocation in 1938, after proving that bats navigated entirely by sound, not sight. Migratory birds present another entirely separate sensory universe. European robins, Arctic terns, and thousands of other species migrate across thousands of miles with a precision that has long baffled researchers. In 2004, Torsten Ritz at the University of California, Irvine, published evidence that European robins detect the Earth's magnetic field using a quantum mechanical process in their own eyes. They appear to possess magnetically sensitive proteins called cryptochromes, embedded in the photoreceptors of their retinas. These proteins may allow birds to visualize the Earth's magnetic field lines as a faint directional overlay on their visual field. If this model is correct, a migrating robin is seeing a live map of the entire planet's electromagnetic structure while it looks at the landscape. It is navigating by a sense that has no equivalent in human anatomy, and no equivalent word in any human language. It is seeing a version of the world that includes information about the entire planet's magnetic skeleton. Dogs and cats also perceive ultraviolet light that humans cannot. A 2014 study by Ron Douglas and Glenn Jeffrey at University College London confirmed that cats, dogs, ferrets, and reindeer can all see into the ultraviolet spectrum. A dog sniffing a fire hydrant on a sunny day is simultaneously reading a UV landscape invisible to the human watching it. Reindeer in the Arctic use UV vision to detect polar bears against snow in conditions where human eyes see nothing but white. Pythons possess both optical eyes and a row of pit organs along the upper lip, each detecting thermal radiation independently. Together, these organs form a low-resolution thermal image of the surrounding environment. The python runs two completely separate visual systems in parallel, one optical, one thermal, feeding different streams of spatial data to the brain simultaneously. It sees the world through two cameras at once, one of which captures an entire dimension of reality that human eyes cannot access. The star-nosed mole has 22 fleshy appendages arranged in a star around its nostrils. These appendages contain more than 25,000 minute sensory receptors called Eimer's organs. Kenneth Catania at Vanderbilt University found that the star-nosed mole can identify an object as edible and consume it in as little as 120 milliseconds. The star on its face is a tactile organ of extraordinary resolution. The mole's primary window onto the world is not vision or hearing, but an almost supernatural sense of touch. It navigates reality through a sensory modality that humans experience only as a crude approximation. The question that all of this raises is the same one von Uexkull was asking in 1909. If every one of these creatures is living in a different sensory reality, which one is experiencing the actual universe? None of them. And all of them. There is no sensory system in existence that captures reality in full. There are only Umwelten, sealed perceptual bubbles, each one a different edit of the same universe, each one complete and functional, and utterly local to the organism running it. Let us return to the room you are sitting in right now. Every wall around you is radiating heat in the infrared spectrum. The air is threaded with radio waves carrying signals from cell towers, routers, and satellites. If you had a mantis shrimp's visual system, the light from this screen would fragment into 16 separate channels of information simultaneously. There is ultraviolet light bouncing off every surface in this room that you have never once perceived. There are electric fields generated by every device and every living thing around you, fields you cannot feel. There are magnetic field lines passing through the walls and floor, visible to a robin as clearly as the furniture is visible to you. You are immersed in all of this right now. You are touching it. You are passing through it, and you have no idea it is there. The philosopher Thomas Nagel wrote a famous paper in 1974 titled, "What is it like to be a bat?" His argument was that subjective experience cannot be fully captured by any objective physical description. We can describe echolocation in perfect mathematical terms. We can measure every frequency, every delay, every returning echo. But we cannot know what echolocation feels like from inside a bat navigating the dark. We can describe the mantis shrimp's 16 photoreceptors in complete molecular detail, but we cannot know what 16-channel color vision actually feels like. The universe contains experiences that are, in principle, permanently inaccessible to the human mind. A mantis shrimp, watching the same sunset you are watching right now, is perceiving something with 16 dimensions of color information that human neurology cannot conceive of. A bee flying through a garden you walked through this morning saw elaborate ultraviolet runway markings on every flower that were completely invisible to you. A dog walking beside you on that path was reading a UV and chemical landscape that turned an ordinary sidewalk into a rich, detailed document you cannot read. You were all in the same location. You were all in different universes. This is not a failure of imagination or a limitation of language. It is a hard biological boundary on human experience, one that cannot be overcome by reading more or thinking harder. You can know, intellectually, that the mantis shrimp sees something extraordinary, but you cannot feel it. Jakob von Uexkull, staring at a tick under a microscope in Hamburg in 1909, arrived at the most quietly devastating idea in biology. We do not experience the universe. We experience our species' extremely narrow approximation of it. And that approximation, however rich it feels from the inside, is built on less than 2% of the information available. The real world is out there right now, in your room, moving through your body, painting itself on every surface around you. And somewhere in that same room, looking at the same light, a creature with 16 photoreceptors is seeing something you will never, in the entire history of your species, be permitted to see. You are standing at the edge of the most magnificent thing in existence, and you are only seeing the door.